right, bet. So, all right, what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Now, today we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I'm going to try to crunch it all in 1 hour because I'm hella busy. I got a class right after this. So let's just jump into it. I first want to talk about Jackie Robinson because today is the first history of Today is the first day of Black History Month. Pardon. I've been working. I'm tired, but yeah. Shout out to Jackie Robinson. Shout out to all the legends that I've covered on this channel before. Go check out the live stream I did talking about the inventors of rock and roll and deep videos in my catalog covering other major figures in Black history as well. So shout out to everybody who paved the way for me to be here. There are so many names, and there are more names than I could even say if I decided to spend all day on stream. I just wanted to give a shout out to Jackie Robinson and talk about this tragic story that happened, I believe, in Kansas or Kentucky. I'm pulling up the story right now, and I'm going to read it from my phone. From the New York Times. I'm using my MacBook, so I don't have a streaming service here where I can show the screen at the same time. So I'm just going to be reading the story about what happened to the Jackie Robinson statue and how this is an attack, how this is an assault on our history. And the white supremacists are insistent, persistent, and will be consistent on trying to diminish our legacy in America, continue to attack our heroes, and continue to try to push our nation to the right. And we always need to be vigilant of it, aware of it, and be ready to fight back. So let's go here to this story. This was published on the New York Times, written by Amy Ortiz, published on January 30th, 2024. Pieces of Jackie Robinson statue are found burning in Kansas Park. The life-size bronze tribute to the legendary baseball player who broke the color barrier was stolen from a different park last week. What was left of it is beyond repair, officials said. You know, I'm here in Budapest, Hungary, and sometimes when I go to work, I walk past the Ronald Reagan statue, which is right in front of the U.S. Embassy. I don't work for the U.S. government. I don't work at the embassy, but I go and teach a class right next to it. And when I go there, this Ronald Reagan statue is life size. It's actually more than life size. They make him look, kind of like LeBron James, very broad chested, standing straight up, and I really dislike Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was one of our worst presidents, one of our most destructive presidents. At the very least, he created this environment where nobody trusts the media because he got rid of the Fair Reporting Act. Basically, before, in the past, news stations used to have to cover both sides of a story, and they used to be public services, and they used to get funding from the government. But Ronald Reagan got rid of all of that and allowed Fox News to open up the gates to allow all this right-wing propaganda to fry our grandmothers and grandfathers' brains. So yeah, F Ronald Reagan for that. Also the crack epidemic, Iran-Contra, so many things Ronald Reagan did were actually bad. But even still, with that being said, I would not, for the life of me, think about tearing down a Ronald Reagan statue. Number one, because I don't have to resort to violence. I don't have to attack symbols to attack the ideas that are behind them. I can use my words, I can use my intelligence, I can use my wit. But the white supremacists are not witty. They're not smart. They're not creative. All they know is violence, mayhem, and destruction, which is why they had to resort to tearing down Jackie Robinson's statue. An honorable man, a good man, a man who never hurt anybody, and a man who broke down the doors for so many other people to be able to live their full dreams. Let's keep it real. Baseball, before integration, sucked. The major leagues sucked. All the talent was in the Negro leagues. And nowadays, when we watch baseball, who are the primary players who make up all the major teams? A bunch of Latin people, dark-skinned Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans. And now the game is better than ever. I don't know that much about sports. I don't follow sports like that. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. When we have integrated sports, when we have integrated anything in life, we are going to get better outcomes as far as entertainment, as far as public policy, as far as commercial aspects. We will always have better returns on investment when we allow everybody to participate. He is not like the Confederate generals who we wanted to tear down statues for, who literally tried to destroy America all over the United States, especially in the South. They have statues and street names and school names and building names named after people who were literally insurrectionists, who tried to take over the U.S. government, who enslaved people, who killed other Americans and tried to destroy our democracy. democracy. I put that in air quotes, but you get the idea. You might say, oh, tearing down a Confederate statue is just as violent as tearing down Jackie Robinson's statue. But Jackie Robinson did not try to overthrow the U.S. government. Jackie Robinson did not hurt other Americans. He played a baseball game and was a hero to many. And he should be a hero to all Americans because of what he went through. But I'm sorry I'm ranting. I'm going to read the story first. So, parts of a life-size bronze statue that celebrated the legacy of the legendary baseball player and civil rights figure Jackie Robinson were found dismantled and burned early Tuesday after it had been stolen from a Kansas park last week, the authorities said. Remnants of the statue were found after a city worker reported a fire in a trash can at Garvey Park in Wichita at around 8:38 a.m. Andrew Ford, a police spokesman, said in a statement. The Wichita Fire Department responded, and while assessing the damage, they found pieces of the Jackie Robinson statue that had been stolen. The fire department immediately notified the police, who collected the pieces at the scene. He said, noting that unfortunately the statue is beyond repair. So Ozzy jumped into the chat. He said, salute, Simon. Shout out to Ozzy. He's always in here. He's always building with us heavy. He's a good brother. So the police are continuing to investigate who stole the Jackie Robinson statue and who decided to burn this statue. Mr. Ford said, and they have already interviewed over 100 people. The department is also looking into how the statue was dismantled and how the pieces ended up at the location of the fire. Mr. Ford had previously said that the motive for the theft of the monument was not known. I think we know what the motive was. The motive was racial hatred, racial animus, and white supremacy. You are not tearing down a statue of Jackie Robinson just because you hated the Dodgers. Let's keep it absolutely real. Somebody tearing down a statue in Wichita, Kansas of Jackie Robinson is not doing that because they wish Jackie Robinson played for the Yankees. Let's keep it real. Additionally, the fire department's arson investigators are looking into the trash can fire, he said. In a statement posted on Facebook, the department said that additional parts of the statue have not been recovered at this time. The statue had an estimated value of $75,000, according to League 42, the nonprofit Little League that had it installed in April 2021 at McAdams Park. This incident has caused an outrage in the community. Bob Lutz, the executive director of League 42, which takes its name for the number Robinson wore, said during an interview on Tuesday. People want to see justice served, he said. Nobody can understand why this would happen. Robinson, the first black player in Major League Baseball's modern era, became a symbol of hope for racial equality in the country when he broke the color barrier in baseball in 1947. After he retired from baseball, he continued working on civil rights issues and went on to break barriers in advertising, broadcasting, and business. This is the statue that they tore down. I hope y'all can see it. Nope, you can't see it. I'll put the link in the description of this video. If it's not there already, you can find it afterwards. But yeah, the statue is very dope, very beautiful. I don't see how anybody can look at this and hate it because, number one, a bronze statue will always be black or brown or something like that, right? Like I said, I saw the bronze statue of Reagan, and Reagan looks Puerto Rican. Reagan looks Mexican. A bronze statue is sort of like raceless. It's sort of like race neutral. And especially when you know the figure behind it, a man who played in the major leagues, fought against all sorts of racial slurs and attacks on his life just for playing the game that he loves, trying to help people in America bridge the racial gap. Jackie Robinson is a true American hero through and through. Nothing else is more American than Jackie Robinson in baseball. If you hate Jackie Robinson, you hate Jesus. Nobody else has been more sacrificial. Nobody else went through more to break the barrier other than Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all the other civil rights icons. Jackie Robinson is one of them. So you have to put some respect on his name. But the white supremacists are evil. They're literally evil. All right, I'm going to continue here. There are still many questions in the community as to who could have been behind the statue's destruction. Mr. Lutz said Garvey Park is on the side of town, roughly a 7-mile drive from the park where the statue had been. Police obtained surveillance footage of the theft from Thursday morning. The video shows at least 2 people cutting down the statue and placing it in the bed of a truck that had been discreetly parked near the statue, Mr. Ford said. At the time, he declined to specify what tools had been used to cut the statue. The nonprofit group can now turn its attention to replacing the statue, Mr. Lutz said, a lengthy process that will take 6 months. He added that the group's members are looking forward to, in the near future, the apprehension of the folks who did it. I really hope they catch the people that tore down this statue, and they should not only have to pay the fees for replacing the statue, $75,000. On top of that, they should get at least a few years in jail and go to a re-education camp. You know, big communist Simon loves to send people to re-education camps. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to send them to a gulag somewhere far out in Alaska, where all they have to do is read is read the autobiography of Malcolm X, a bunch of works from Toni Morrison and W.E.B. Du Bois, until they actually know the souls of black folk and become less racist. And in fact, they'll be forced to read Ibrahim Kendi X, or Ibrahim X Kendi, whatever his name is. Read all of his works. That's what they should do. I can't wait. I can't wait till we topple the U.S. government and we bring socialism and communism to America, and we can send people to these anti-racist re-education camps. That's my number one goal if I ever so decide to run for president or elected office. All right, so League 42 will be able to replace the statue because we do have the mold created to represent Robinson, Mr. Lutz said, and a GoFundMe account has been set up by the organization to help cover the cost of getting a new one made. Practice for the organization's hundreds of players is set to begin on March 11th, and the season will officially kick off on April 15th, which happens to be Jackie Robinson Day. I'm so fired up to get our kids on the baseball field, and that's always the case, Mr. Lutz said. We played 7 years without a Jackie statue, but his spirit was always with us, and we may miss the physical presence of that statue, but we'll be inspired to know that it will be replaced. He continued on to say that the message of Robinson has never rung louder or more true. Once again, shout out to the League 42 Foundation. Shout out to all the kids that love baseball and that are going to be playing in that field. And yeah, F you to the people that stole that statue and that are so hateful, so bigoted, that your hatred of black people doesn't even extend only to the physical form. You have to even tear down our symbols, our icons, and that sort of stuff. But don't worry, we're on our way. We're tearing down all your Confederate statues. We're going to rename all those streets that you named after secessionist traitors. We're going to do all of that. We're going to do all of that, and we're definitely not going to forget the legacy of our icons like Jackie Robinson, especially in 2024's Black History Month. So happy Black History Month to everybody out there. We're going to celebrate it heavy in this very short month. Oh, we're going to get into it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, and I'm not going to be reading from my phone. Well, yes, I will be reading from my phone. I want to talk about Cornel West. So if you don't know who Cornel West is, he's Kanye West's father. No, he's not. No, Cornel West is a 70-year-old theologian, philosopher, one of our brightest intellectuals, a professor at several universities. He got kicked out of Harvard for standing up for Palestine. He's been an icon. He's been a staple on national TV since I was a child. I grew up looking at Cornel West on screen, debating the white supremacists, arguing for our cause, being one of our most, how can I say, brightest thinkers. And I really, really admire and love Cornel West. I'm not going to bash him at all in this video, but I am going to give a critique, and I'm going to point out some things that are transitioning in the culture that I feel like Cornel West does not have his thumb on, does not have his pulse on. And I think we're now seeing a transition from the old guard to the new. And it's going to be very interesting what happens in the culture of Black thought. So Cornel West is 70 years old. And he's running for president, as you know. And I believe recently, I believe today or yesterday, he switched from the party he was running with. I believe he was with the Green Party, and now he started his own party, like the Truth and Justice Party or something like that. He's running for president as a third party candidate. Yeah, he has an uphill battle, and it's very unlikely that Cornel West will actually win the presidency. But he does have generally my tacit support, right? I don't like Biden, definitely don't like Trump. And if I had my will, I would snap my fingers and make Cornel West president. Yes, I do think he would be a better president than either of those guys, because I do think it's important we have intellectuals as our leaders, right? And Cornel West is going on his media runs. It seems like the only way he campaigns is by having a few surrogates in every state and just doing a bunch of YouTube interviews every single day. There's like 3 or 4 where he's just going off on the Zoom with somebody, right? And recently he did an interview with Black Alpha Network. Now, if you're not familiar with Black Alpha Network, he's an acolyte of Tariq Nasheed, a big proponent of the FBA, Foundational Black American lineage-based ideology. And he's basically a foot soldier for this, constantly campaigning for this out in social media, pushing out the message about FBA and that sort of stuff, right? And Cornel West went on his platform, which I was very highly interested in. Go watch the video; it's in the description of this video. I made sure to do that. And the thing about Cornel West is that, number one, I don't think that we should have presidents who are over 70 years old, honestly, first and foremost. So he is right at the cutoff age on where I would say nobody should be allowed to be president, whether I agree with them or not. Because Cornel West is starting to hit that age where he's starting to become the rambling old man a little bit. He's grandpa who at dinner time who's had too many to drink and can't stop talking about how great James Brown was and Stevie Wonder was and Ella Fitzgerald was, and about his time in the 60s marching with Martin Luther King and stuff like that. He's starting to reach that stage. I'm keeping it real with you. I'm not the most articulate person, but I'm just expressing how I perceive Cornel West at the stage, right? I do think, unfortunately, Michael Eric Dyson has a sharper mind than him. And Cornel West has reached that stage where his mind is starting to just become wild and obtuse and just all over the place. That's my thing about Cornel West right now. It's the same thing with Joe Biden, and it's the same with Trump, because Trump just be rambling too. So in his interview with the Black Alpha Network, Cornel West, opened up talking about why he was running for candidacy, why he had his candidacy for president. And he basically said that the American people need a third option. We need a president who will stand up against imperialism, who will stand up against the genocide that is happening against the Palestinians, that is going to stand up for workers, that's going to fight against racial injustice. This is all the things that Cornel West made his talking points on his campaign to presidency, right? Generally, these are things that I can all get behind and stuff like that. And of course, while he's giving his big speech about how he feels about all of these things, Cornel West is then tying in all these, black figures from the past that that he thinks are very important and that we value too, but also tying that in. And the Black Alpha Network is just like, going on with him, like, yeah, 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 I agree with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. But I really think the disconnect started to happen in this interview when Cornel West started talking about Palestine and the need to stand up for all workers and the need to fight for a living wage for everybody in America and that sort of stuff. And the thing about the FBA ideology and movement is that they are wholly, it stop, like, period, point blank period. They are focused on reparations. All they are focused on for foundational Black Americans are getting reparations for our people, which is something that Cornel West agrees with, and I agree with, and anybody who seriously thinks about Black issues, specifically us in the United States, we all agree with. Black people, the descendants of the founders of this nation, the descendants of the builders of this nation, deserve reparations. Nobody is going to disagree with that, right? But when you tie this into this idea of global solidarity with all people who go through struggle, I think this is now being lost in this next generation of young people that are coming up that are woke, Black conscious, Black power focused, and the old generation. Everybody can agree that Black Americans are, how can I say this, the moral center of the world, right? And this isn't us being American centric or how can I say this, egotistical, but our heroes and our struggle has been a light to the rest of the world. The rest of the world started saying their lives mattered when we stood up and said our lives matter, right? As in Black lives matter. The rest of the world started fighting for their civil rights and human rights when they saw what we did to gain our civil rights. The rest of the world started breaking the chains of bondage and finally liberating all people when we stood up. Yes, we Black Americans took up arms and started fighting against the white supremacists, along with the people who just wanted to preserve the Union. We were the only ones in the Civil War actually fighting for freedom for all Americans. Many of the people who were fighting for the Union side just wanted to preserve the Union. They did not want to end slavery. So we have constantly been the people who the rest of the world can look at and say those are truly moral people, despite what the media might tell you about the rest of the world thinking that we're ghetto or that we're thugs or that we're gangsters and all this sort of stuff. Black Americans are the pinnacle of moral excellence. Cornel West said he agreed with that. Black Alpha Network said he agreed with that in the video. And of course, I agree with that as well. Now, if we agree with this same premise, if we agree with this idea that we are the moral center of the world, what do we do with that? the old guard's idea of what we do with that capital that we have as moral people and as people who strive to attain the highest levels of humanity and the highest levels of empathy for others, we as moral people must, it is a must in the mind of Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Lamont Hill, and many of those old guard thinkers, Jesse Jackson, that sort of stuff. They would say that we need to have solidarity with the Palestinians, with the Rohingya, with the Ukrainians, with indigenous people in the Americas. We need to have solidarity with them, first and foremost, because we see ourselves in them. And it would only be human if we fight against the injustices that happen to other people, even if we are not affected at all. And on top of that, even if we benefit from it, right? We as Americans, not despite our color, benefit from the subjugation of the third world. Americans would not be able to consume so many iPhones, so many computers, so many Nike tennis shoes if we did not subjugate Asian people and have them working in sweatshops. We as Americans would not be able to benefit from all of those same things if we didn't keep Africa as a third world continent and continue to exploit the natural resources that come up from the ground in Africa. We, even as Black Americans, we benefit from all this, right? So we need to always fight against those forces to show the ultimate humanity to people. And we are somewhat, in Cornel West's minds, burdened with this. We are somewhat burdened with this idea that we have to stand up and hold solidarity with people. The new guard, the guys like Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar, Black Alpha Network, and Professor Black Truth. This is probably the first time on my channel I'm mentioning these people. Once again, I love everybody. I have no problems with Umar, no problems with Tariq Nasheed, no problems with Professor Black Truth. We might not agree on everything, but I care about our people. I love our people, and I put myself out here every day to talk about the issues of our people because I do care. But this new guard thinks that solidarity is not mandatory. In fact, the solidarity that Black Americans have given to the rest of the world has not been reciprocated. We have been speaking up for Palestine since the whole thing began. We have been speaking out against apartheid and racial animus and anti-Black racism in South Africa and throughout the African continent since it began. We have been speaking up for indigenous people since we landed on the shores of America. We were saying that, the genocide committed against the Native Americans in America is not okay. We've always advocated for these people. But what do those same people do when they come and interact with us in the US? We were the ones who said we were not going to go fight in Vietnam. We weren't going to go fight in Vietnam because we saw this as colonial. We saw this as imperial. We saw this as morally wrong. Muhammad Ali lost everything because he said, no Vietnamese ever called me the N-word. And several other Black people whose names are lost to time decided to follow that same path, claiming religious exemption. I'm a Muslim. It's against my religion to fight in your war, America, your imperial war in Vietnam. But what do the Vietnamese do when they come to America? Open up stores in our neighborhoods, tell their friends and tell their children not to associate with us, treat us like criminals when we walk in the store, follow us around the store, treat us like trash, and on top of that, participate in the same white supremacist, anti-Black, racist behavior that the dominant society does in America and in other parts of the Western world as well. What do the Arabs do? Many Black Americans were on the front lines protesting against the Iraq War. Most Black Americans disagreed with the Iraq War and the Afghan War. But what do the Arabs do? Many of the refugees who came from Iraq, came from Afghanistan, do in America. Hate on Black Americans and perpetuate the same sorts of racist behaviors that the dominant society does. And even worse, if we never did any of those things, because of American media's influence across the world, if you were to go to Vietnam, if you were to go to Iraq, if you were to go to many parts of the world, like I've documented in my experiences through my travel content, what do we see? We see Black people getting called racial slurs abroad. We hear about Black people losing their lives in other countries abroad because of their Blackness. We hear about anti-Black discrimination all across the world. Specifically, sometimes, because I'm Black, because I'm American, and I particularly stay in the Anglophone world, I'm only exposed to what happens to generally us or English-speaking people or media that is put out there in English. But I'll say this. We hear too many stories of Black people going abroad in other countries that are non-Black, but especially ones that are non-white, and still experiencing anti-black racism. So what is the point of having solidarity if there will always be anti-black racism perpetuated against the people that we're trying to protect? Cornel West would reply and say, we need to look past that and see the humanity in others. We need to look past how other people might hate on black people, but still advocate for their causes. Ridiculous. South Africa just took Israel to court, the ICJ, and got a judgment against them, or a tacit judgment against them, saying that they possibly are committing genocide. The case will move forward and something must be done, right? That to me was a victory. That's why I did the live stream where I said this is a victory, because I thought that the Zionists were going to get the case kicked out. That was a big win for the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian people. But you don't think that there will be more Palestinian Arabs or Arabs in general who will continue to be hateful towards black people? How are the Nubians treated in Egypt? How are the black people in the southern regions of Tunisia, Libya, Algeria treated? How are they treated in Jordan? How are they treated in actual Palestine? How are they treated in Saudi Arabia? Very bad. Very, very bad. And all the other places as well. We cannot have solidarity with people who will continue to hate on us. This is what the New Guard is saying. And on top of that, whenever we start to all lives matter our cause, when we say that we're fighting against white supremacy to try to create a better world for everybody, the rest of the world is not on that. In fact, many parts of the world worship the white supremacists. They don't even have a thought in their head about what white supremacy is while they're bleaching their skin, while they're getting eye surgery that will get rid of the slits in their eyes, while they will blonde their hair, dye their hair, all sorts of colors, why they will get expensive eye surgery to dye their eyes green and blue and that sort of stuff, while they are dying on rafts trying to get to Europe just because they think it's better, and yet live in the same poverty that exists in their countries. There are so many places in the world where this concept of worshiping whiteness is foreign to them, not because that they don't do it, but because they believe that's the natural thing to do. Do you follow what I'm saying? I hope this is absolutely clear, and I hope I'm getting my point across, because Cornel West would reply to that, as he did in his interview with Black Alpha Network, that it's pointless to point out all of this, because our duty as black people is to continue to be the moral light. And the new generation has said, black folks are tired of being the world's bitches. We're tired of being the world's bottom bitch. We don't want to continue to have to get whooped on, beat on, and continue to try to make the world better. We should look out for ourselves, which is why the FBA movement is continually pressing the issue of reparations for only foundational black Americans. I'm going to jump to Ozzy right here. It is just ignorance, or do people only look out for themselves? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you mean right here. Is it just ignorance? I think it's not ignorance, if I could get that right. I think people, I think it's not ignorance, it's just willfully choosing which causes to be involved in. Because, you know what? A lot of the world was on board for Black Lives Matter. When Black Lives Matter blew up in 2020, even though the movement had been going on for years, they used that movement to then piggyback and attack parts of their society that they didn't like, right? In Italy, where there are a ton of black people, but there's rampant anti-black racism in Italy. They were throwing up Black Lives Matter signs, but really they were protesting against inflation in their country and bad working conditions in their country and the lack of job opportunities in their country. That's the type of stuff that they were protesting against. A lot of people, let's keep it absolutely real, in foreign countries abroad, when Black Lives Matter popped off, they just wanted to use it as an excuse to get out of lockdown, to get out of quarantine, to get out of the house. It wasn't genuinely because they were anti-racist now. They saw George Floyd get killed, and now, oh, it popped in their head, we have to be actively anti-racist. No, this was something that was just an excuse for them to piggyback on the cause and then advocate for other things. And we've seen this too. The Black Lives Matter movement in the US has generally somewhat been hijacked by people who are pushing LGBTQ causes, who are pushing the causes for immigrants, who are pushing several other agendas other than fighting anti-blackness and destroying white supremacy. Sorry if I'm stuttering here, hella tired, but I'm putting in that work for y'all and also for my own posterity. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. Let's look at the comments for the video that Cornel West did with Black Alpha Network, so you can get the idea. And you can see the video yourself. So he's talking to Black Alpha Network, and the top comment here: not hugs, not kisses, not Uber rides, cash payments. All people are focused on is reparations. Now, I'm not saying that getting reparations is impossible. I want to make this absolutely clear. It is possible for Black people to get reparations, because the difference in Cornel West's generation and the new generation, like my generation, is that we've seen the impossible get done. And Cornel West has too. Cornel West grew up in a time of segregation. Cornel West grew up in a time when interracial marriages like the one I have were illegal. Cornel West grew up in a time in America where there were rampant police shootings, rampant police abuse, anti-Black racism to your face. And he saw in his lifetime many of those things get dismantled. The election of a Black president, a Black middle class burgeoning in America, so many things. He saw so many things happen in his lifetime that he is shocked. He has seen the impossible happen. But we, as the new generation, if you were born in the 80s or 90s, we don't really know about what happened in the 60s, 50s, and 40s, right? We only know what we see in the history books, what our parents tell us, what our grandparents tell us, right? And what we saw is the impossible happen. But what we saw to be impossible was, how can somebody beat up a man on camera, Rodney King, and the police get away with it? How can we see somebody get shot in the back and the police get away with it? How can we see a woman get dragged out of her car, beat up, and then she dies in a jail and the police get away with it? How can we see the United States of America invade two countries at the same damn time and get away with it? How can we see banks cause people to lose their homes, lose their life savings, and then they get the bailout and nobody goes to jail? This is the thing. We, as the new generation, Gen X, millennials, whatever you want to call them, we saw the impossible happen, but we saw negative impossible things happen. We saw Guantanamo Bay, in which Guantanamo Bay is still happening. We saw so many things in America happen that were negative. Cornel West has seen a lot of progress, but all we've seen is regression. Do you get what I'm saying? This is why people are turning against the Democrats. These are the reasons why the people are saying no tangibles, no vote, because we know that the money is there. We saw the United States government say we don't have enough money to guarantee universal universal health care, or universal income, or universal higher education. But then when COVID hit, everybody could get a check like that. Everybody got a check. Everybody got a check under COVID. But the United States government has said, and politicians have said, it would be logistically impossible to give everybody money every single month. But they did it. They did it. They found a way to do it. And that's part of the reason why they stopped giving out the COVID checks, because they didn't want people to get used to this idea that the government actually did have the money to give to people. We didn't have to have people starve in the streets. We didn't have to have homeless. We've seen the impossible happen. So we know that the money is there and the opportunity is there, and the political will can be there to cause the impossible to happen in the richest nation in the world. So I'm not saying that reparations is impossible at all. But the problem I'm seeing with this reparations movement is when people say no tangibles, no votes, as if not playing the game will help you win the game. I find it hard to believe, whether we vote for Democrats or vote for Republicans, that people will not listen to us. Other groups actually vote. The reason why the majority of our presidents have been old white men, at least since the end of voting, the end of the voting restrictions and Jim Crow laws that made it harder for people to vote. Since the end, the reason why the majority of our presidents have been old white men is because the majority of voters tend to be old white people. People under 30 tend to not vote. But when they did in large numbers, what did we get? Barack Obama. A lot of people didn't turn out for the election of Donald Trump versus Clinton, right? Because a lot of people just really hated Clinton. They were sexist against her. Also, she was just kind of unlikable. I never got the unlikable part about Clinton. But then again, I'm an unlikable person. I'm an unlikable person, so maybe I'm just not seeing it. Y'all know, y'all see me, so y'all know what's likable and unlikable. So if Hillary Clinton is unlikable, then I guess I am too. But yeah, a lot of people didn't turn out for Clinton. A lot of people didn't turn out for that second election with Biden and Trump. So this is what happens. We're going to continue to have old white men being presidents because those are the people who are making their voices heard. Yes, they do outnumber us statistically, but saying that we're not going to vote as a black people because nobody is talking about reparations is insane to me, because we are not going to get anything if we don't do anything. We're not going to get anything at all if we don't do anything. And it's even worse to think we're going to get everything if we don't do anything. It makes no sense. No tangibles, no vote. We need to press our candidates to actually talk about reparations. Every time a political candidate comes out to talk to the media, the first question from a black reporter should be about reparations, period. Do you support reparations for black Americans? If that's really what we want, we need to press that. But saying that we're not going to be involved in the process is like saying we will win the basketball game by sitting on the sidelines. And then we're going to say, oh, we're going to force the Democrats to come to us and finally talk to us. We've been supporting them, yes. We have been giving them our vote, yes. We have been actively donating to them, yes. And yes, a lot of things have not changed. I can admit that. I can admit that. But I cannot imagine ceding the party or ceding the political process to the white supremacists who would much rather bring back segregation, continue to tear down statues like Jackie Robinson's, that sort of stuff. Ceding the whole game to them is definitely setting us up for even worse things. Unless you're an accelerationist. If you're an accelerationist who just wants to see the world crash and burn, and you really want that race war, that civil war, then of course you're going to say no tangibles, no vote. That's how I honestly feel. We have to be involved in the process. And if we don't like the candidates who are running, we should run our own candidates. I'm not one of those people that come out here and say we need to form a big black pack. We need to form a political party specifically for black people. But listen, if you don't like who's running, you can get involved in the process. And if you guys can spend all this time on social media, raising money for books, for films, and all that stuff, you can raise enough money to fund somebody's political campaign. I know Marcel Dixon is out here trying to do his thing. I believe he lost his race. Better luck next time, and I wish him the best because I do think he would enact good policies. But we got to spend more time strategizing on how to get into office and play the game and work the system so that we can actually turn the levers of power to crank out those dollar bills that we deserve for our ancestors' work, which keeps us, not able to rise economically because they deprived us of that wealth. Or we're just going to sit on the sidelines and continue to, B and C. I'm going to read the next comment here. We need to bring it out every day, not just on Tuesdays, every day of the week. Grassroots on the game. It's real, not fake. So this is the thing. The black grassroots, and I'm not going to disrespect them by putting them in air quotes, but I'll say this. The black grassroots sees themselves as very radical. This is like the SCLC meets, the Black Panthers, right? The SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, peaceful sit-ins. We're going to march on Washington. The Black Panthers were talking about we're going to be armed. We're going to monitor the police. We're going to give programs to the kids in schools who don't have lunches and breakfast. We're going to do all of that. The black grassroots, this new generation of young black folks who are talking and being politically aware, they don't want to hear the all lives matter stuff that the solidarity folks like Cornel West and Jesse Jackson were talking about. It's not working with us because we've only seen regression and we've only seen oppression from those groups that you say that we need to advocate for. Gonna go to the next comment here. B1 straight to the point with no chaser, no tangibles, no vote, and as the saying goes, always bet on black FBA grassroots. Once again, more of that same. Dr. Cornel appeared to be straddling the fence. I'm not even halfway in, and he's been doing too much all lives mattering. So, I thought, Black Alpha Network handled the interview well. I don't think he wanted to be confrontational, but I thought in the interview it would have been interesting when Cornel West started talking about Palestine that he actually pushed back and said what the Black grassroots thinks about foreign people's struggles, right? I wish Black Alpha Network actually said, we can recognize what is happening in Palestine is a genocide, a mass extinction event, a horrible tragedy befalling an entire group of people, but we have no time to be concerned with other people. And I really think that would have set Cornel West off of the edge. He would have turned up. He would have said, no, wait, hold on, brother. We got to love everybody, man. And we got to stand up for everybody. But yeah, I really wish he did that because there was some contention in the interview when later Black Alpha Network got interrupted by Cornel West when Black Alpha Network was talking about, we're Black Americans, we're Black American freedmen, we're the foundation of this nation, we're the group that didn't migrate and didn't run away and that sort of stuff. Cornel West switched the topic to the Native Americans and said, we need to remember the Native Americans who were slaughtered and the indigenous people here. We can never forget their struggle as well. And then Black Alpha Network pulled out the trump card, the trump card the FBA's use, and they say, we're indigenous to this land. There were Black people already here in America. Okay, I haven't spoken about this before because I don't think it's actually worth talking about, if that makes sense. Um, you know, I, I'm gonna say this: is it possible that some of the indigenous Aboriginal people here were Black? Like as in very, very dark skin. Uh, yeah. It's hard for me to say. Ozzy says, I lose brain cells every time I hear that point brought up. Me too. Me too. I hate that. I hate when they bring that up. I do not think it's possible that the majority of Black Americans have a very significant portion of our DNA being from the indigenous people of the Americas. I'm just going to say it as that. Yes, it's possible that a lot of us intermixed, but I really think that Dane Calloway, that guy who started his YouTube channel a few years ago and really started pushing that type of talk into the algorithm, he caused a lot of people to believe that Black people are really the original Indians. And that became a really big talking point for a few months. Dane Calloway pushed that thought into people's minds. Shout out to Avery Adams. Salute to the chat. Salute to Avery right here. Ozzy says, yes, there were probably some dark skinned Aboriginals. Yeah, there probably were. But, I haven't seen anybody's, Black American DNA test and then they post it online and they have a significant portion of Native American DNA, right? It's maybe at most 1%, if not 2%. So this is where in the interview, Cornel West was even like, what are you talking about? Cornel West was like, this is the thing. When the guys like Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, and all these folks start talking to the new young Black folks who are like politically minded, they're going to get hit with like some conspiracy theories, right? And the idea that we are Native Americans to me is kind of conspiracy theory ish. And I really think Tariq Nasheed, when he was building the FBA idea and pressing the idea about the lineage base that he got from the other guy. I forgot the older guy, Dr. Thomas Anderson, something like that. He really wanted to tie those two ideas together, and I think that's kind of silly, because Tariq Nasheed was doing the turn to like pro-Black and stuff like that online. At the same time, Dane Calloway was popping. A lot of Black folks were saying, "Yo, my mama always said that we were part Indian." But a lot of our mamas and daddies told us that we were part Indian because a lot of our parents had self hate. We got to keep it absolutely real. You know, uh, our generation, our parents' generation, they're that generation that was perming their hair a lot. They're that generation that was, they're the first to code switch. You know what I mean? They were the ones who were, trying to make it in this, racist world that we live in by trying to be, as assimilating as possible. And, my father used to tell me, Simon, you're not really Black. You're Garifuna, right? Because as you guys know, my mother is from Belize. And he used to try to tell me, no, don't let people call you Black. You're Garifuna, right? And I never understood that. And I never got with that idea because I'm very proud to be a Black American. And there's nothing about me that says, I hate being Black American. I've never told anybody like I was mixed instead of Black or something like that. That's crazy. That's literally crazy to me. And yeah, I never actually like fully embraced my beliefs inside, not because I hate it, but because I only grew up in America. So I think a lot of Black folks in America who don't have like the lineage I have, they sometimes tell their children like, hey, we got Indian in our family and stuff like that. And some of it might be true. Some of it might be based on a lie, but we have to remember too that a lot of us have Indian in our family, if we do have that, because the Native Americans were enslaving Black people too. This is a fact. This is a fact. There were Native American tribes that owned Black folks as well. And while it might not have been as harsh as what the people on the plantation were doing, it was equally just as bad. But I want to know if anybody else in the chat ever had their family, ever had their mama say, "Hey, I want you to know you got Indian in your family." And stuff like that. And you know what they say in the hood? Oh, you got Indian hair, right? If somebody comes out with like that wavy hair, oh, you got that Indian. or something like that. That's what they say in Louisiana, at least. But yeah, Cornel West was a bit shocked in the interview about that. And once again, I think this divide between the new black generation and the old black generation is very different. So I'm gonna jump to this comment right here. This girl, nice T girl one. She says, with all due respect, Dr. West, we are not all lives mattering right now. FBA standing on FBA business. Exactly. Yes, our good brother, Black Alpha Network, grassroots is with you. And then somebody else said, another woman here. And the crazy thing is, in this movement, this new generation of black folks online talking about politics, talking about our struggle, a lot of them are women too, which is very interesting. We've always had black women involved in our movements and our struggles and our fights, but it's very interesting to me to see so many women involved in these things and talking about these things. You get what I'm saying? Very interesting. With all due respect, sorry, my mom texted me. I got a text from my mother real quick. Mom, I'm doing a live stream. Sorry. So somebody else said it. A woman said in the chat, with all due respect, Dr. West filled the whole room with hot air and didn't really say anything. Not that I expected anything different. I roll. Okay. So that's that. Somebody else said reparations and separation. And this is the thing, man. You know what's happening in America, where so many schools are trying to like ban Black history, like what they're doing in Florida, like what I covered, what they're doing in Missouri. They're literally trying to stop the next generation from being taught, like sort of like what we were taught in high school: Martin Luther King, civil rights movement, the Emancipation Proclamation. America finally got over racism and all that. The new group of people that are coming up who are empowered wants to stop talking about all of that in general. They don't even want kids to learn about the civil rights movement because it's going to be divisive. They don't want people to even learn about who Martin Luther King is because his words could be divisive or racist. Or teaching kids about our struggle or teaching kids about true American history would somehow dissuade them from being true citizens because it would show them that America is racist. And that's the last thing we can do. And all of this is just going to lead people down darker rabbit holes. That's the bigger problem here. That's one of the biggest problems that I think nobody is talking about. If you're not going to teach young white kids and young black kids in American high schools and middle schools the true history of our nation, what you're going to have are a lot of young white kids going down into the 4chans, going down into the dark parts of the internet, going down into the dark recesses of Instagram, and they're just going to get radicalized, or they're going to be totally ignorant, and they're going to end up being very hateful too. And the same thing, but not as violent or hateful, but a bit diluted and a bit strange and weird. You're going to have a lot of young black kids, boys and girls, going down the YouTube wormholes, the TikTok wormholes, the following weird influencers and stuff like that, and getting taught strange things like black people were really Indians or we were really Hebrew Israelites. You're going to get a lot of strange stuff unless we teach kids our actual true history. And of course, on top of that, you're going to have even black folks start saying crazy stuff like, we were actually better under segregation, which is now becoming another talking point, which is coming up. Now, we cannot discount the idea that maybe Russia is involved. There are bots online. If you've ever heard the dead internet theory, it's the idea that basically, 90% of the internet is not real. We don't know anybody because there could be an artificial intelligence that's creating all the chat messages, all the tweets, all the Facebook posts. We don't know if any of what is happening on the internet is real, which is partially part of the reason why I actually show my face, why I come out here, because I'm definitely not AI. An AI would have this channel blown up already. An AI would definitely know what to do better with this channel than me. But what I'm saying is it could be possible that some of these comments like reparations and separation or we're the real Indians, this could be some guy named Igor in a Moscow office space typing away because he's trying to earn his rubles for the day. But this stuff is getting crazy. And this is why we need to have our public schools actually funded. We don't need to ban teaching certain parts of American history. We don't need to be banning books like what's happening all over the country. It's absolutely insane. And the last comment I'll read here is that West clearly does not want the black vote. Because if you watch the interview in it, once again, he's not doing the talking points that a lot of radical black folks who are very hyper online and very active online, and they're the main ones talking about we're going to let Trump win in November by not voting, or we're going to abandon the Democrats and not vote until somebody talks about reparations. That's like saying you're going to sit at the bar with your arms folded and wait for a girl to approach you if you're a man. That's like saying, I'm gonna sit on the bench outside the Chase building until somebody from Chase says, "Hey, you want a job?" That's not how we're gonna get reparations. We have to be involved in the process. We have to vote. We have to run our own candidates. We gotta be in the game because despite what Trump did, telling his base, the election was rigged, your votes were stolen, and all that sort of stuff, and causing them to have doubt on the election. Best and believe they're gonna show up this November and they're gonna drop their ballots off for Trump. They're definitely going to do that. They're going to do it. It's going to happen. And we need to be out there, at least trying to fight off Trump. And this is another thing about Cornel West's candidacy and presidency. With Trump on the ballot, I think it's a different equation. I'm going to keep it absolutely real. Trump is the worst of the worst. If we can say, uh, George Bush was a white supremacist and a racist. We could say George W. Bush was just as bad, even worse, caused the war in Iraq and that sort of stuff. We could say Clinton was bad. But Trump is another level. Trump is another level. And with Trump on the ballot, I do find some credence in the idea that, what? When it comes to this, we should be at least picking the lesser of two evils. Because this man, is a convicted, how can I say this, assaulter of women. He just got hit with $83 million for continuing to defame the woman that he assaulted in a clothing store. He tried to take over the government. He told his little mob of minions to go to the Capitol and run up in there. He did all of that. We saw it on camera. If we allow him to get elected, what we're saying is that, what? White men in America can continue to do bad things, can continue to try to hurt our democracy in all ways imaginable by putting doubt on the elections, by throwing a hissy fit and committing violent acts when they don't win an election. We're saying that that's okay and that can continue in America, and that's not the way it should be. That's not the way it should be, in my opinion. There's a way for everything to be resolved with words, in my opinion. Unless you come and put hands on us or me, I do not see a reason to get violent with anybody, especially in our modern day. That's my opinion, honestly. And the thing with the Trump supporters and a lot of them, they do not believe in nonviolence as a principle. They do not believe in nonviolence as a principle. There was a news story the other day where some crazy right-wing Trump supporter decapitated his own father. A right-wing Trump supporter decapitated his own father, showed the video on YouTube. He was from Pennsylvania, and the feds raided his place instantly like that. Goes to show you, these people are saying, is anybody going to behead their father over Joe Biden? No, no, no. At the very least, Biden is somebody who we can somewhat fight against. And listen, I am not a Democrat. I am not a fan of the Democrats or anything like that. But the thing about these Trump supporters, they got to be stopped because decapitating your own father, running up in the Capitol, so many other instances of crazy Trump supporters who ran up in grocery stores and assaulted like the Indian worker behind the counter, or running their trucks into Mexican migrants who just crossed the border who are looking for help. All this sort of stuff that the right wing is doing in America, they have to be stopped at every single turn. And letting Trump get in the office, getting in office again, I find it disheartening that Cornel West can't find it at least this once to say, what, Trump is a bigger threat. Because that's honestly how I feel. But hey, I'm in Europe. I'm in Budapest. I ain't got to worry about any of this. But that's just really all I had to get off on my chest about this thing. But I would think it would be interesting to look at the story of the man who, unfortunately lost his life because his son was crazy. His son was crazy. Okay. Man, trying to find the guy. I'm going to pull it up on New York Times right here. But y'all let me know anything that y'all are thinking in the comments about any of these stories. Let's go. Where is it? Okay. All right. Managed. Yep, here it is. Here it is. So here's the story right here. Yeah, Ozzy says he deleted his father because of Trump. That's the question mark. Yep, absolutely true. I'm going to read the story right here. This is from the New York Times. Man is charged with killing his father after posting grisly video on YouTube. A disturbing video in which a man claims he is holding his dead father's head was available on YouTube for about 5 hours on Tuesday night. Okay. Yeah. Avery Adams says, you spot on. Trump supporters are aggressive. They hella aggressive. It's aggressive. Aggressive is a mild way to put it when you decapitate your father. That's a mild way of putting it, I would say. So, yeah, a man who posted a graphic video on YouTube in which he claimed to be holding his father's severed head was charged with murder and abuse of a corpse early Wednesday after his father's body was found at a Pennsylvania home, the police said. This story was published on January 31st, 2024. Lieutenant Stephen Foreman, a detective with the Middletown Township Police Department, said the man, Justin Moan, was arrested Tuesday night. The police also confirmed that it was Mr. Moan in the YouTube video, in which he promoted conspiratorial and anti government views and briefly showed what he claimed was his father's head wrapped in plastic. The video, which has since been removed, appeared to have been filmed during the daytime and was online for about 5 hours, Lieutenant Foreman said. He added that it had received just over 5,000 views. During the time the video was available, Mr. Moan's subscriber count increased to 8 from 4. Okay, at least I feel better about my channel. Increased to 8 from 4. That shows you, man. I do. He had 100% increase, Ozzy said. Now I don't feel so bad. Now I don't feel so bad. When I drop a video and it bombs, but the subscribers still go up, at least I didn't have to decapitate somebody to get 4 new subscribers. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, where was I? Where was I? All right. From the way he was talking, you'd think he had a whole militia with thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, Lieutenant Foreman said, referring to Mr. Moan's small following on YouTube. Mr. Moan was arrested in Fort Indian Town Gap, more than 110 miles from the scene of the crime, said Chief Joseph Bartorilla of the Middletown Township Police Department. He was being held without bail, according to Lieutenant Foreman. The police said that Mr. Moan's mother had called them around 7 p.m. on Tuesday and reported finding her husband dead. The police said the man was found in the bathroom of the home in Levittown, about 20 miles northeast of Philadelphia. On Wednesday morning, YouTube confirmed it had taken down the video because it violated the company's graphic violence policy. It also terminated Mr. Moan's channel for violating its violent extremism policies. It's good to see YouTube actually act, but the crazy thing is, I bet his video is fully monetized. Imagine seeing an ad before you click on a video and some man is holding his father's head. Like, that's YouTube for you. This platform is crazy. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. In another lifetime, didn't Jake Paul do something like this on YouTube? I remember like a few years ago, Jake Paul was like in some Japanese forest and like he showed somebody like who had, hung themselves from a tree in on his YouTube channel, and that video stayed up and nobody said anything. He only took it down. Shouldn't his video be deleted? See, YouTube plays favorites. YouTube plays favorites. Anyway, um, yeah, YouTube said it was monitoring for any re-uploads of the video to prevent it from resurfacing. YouTube videos are reviewed by a combination of humans and machines. BS. My video, every single video on my channel now, even if I literally sat here and didn't say anything, every single video on my channel needs to now go through human review. Every video I have to submit human review on, because just me talking, because on this channel, all I've done is talk. All I've done is travel and talk. But everything I say on this channel gets monitored. You get what I'm saying? I've never called for violence. I've never called to hate on people. I'm not a racist. I'm not a xenophobe. I'm not any of that. But YouTube has to monitor my channel. Meanwhile, Ben Shapiro can post up all he wants, and Fox News can post up all they want, right? And I'm pretty sure their videos don't get checked. YouTube plays favorites. Gonna continue here. Between July and September of last year, YouTube took down more than 10.5 million channels. Gosh, goddamn. 10.5 million channels. YouTube deleted 10.5 million channels between July and September of last year. Damn. And more than 8.1 million videos, according to the company. More than 95% of the removed videos were first flagged by automated systems, according to YouTube. Avery Adams said, "Damn Albanians and their ice cream and pizza." I know the Albanians got mad at me because I talked about the pizza and ice cream in their country, and yeah, now all my videos have to get monitored. It's crazy. So YouTube's policies prohibit graphic violence, including content that encourages people to commit violent acts or is intended to shock or disgust viewers. It is hardly the first time that a tech company has grappled with disturbing violence or calls for violence on its platforms. Over the last decade or so, tech giants have struggled to eliminate such content along with racist and discriminatory posts. In 2019, after an Australian man live streamed an attack on Facebook in which he killed 51 people in Christchurch, New Zealand, Facebook said it would place more restrictions on the use of its live video feeds service. 7 years ago, several companies, including major ones like AT&T and Johnson & Johnson, say they would stop their ads from running on YouTube over concerns that Google, which owns YouTube, wasn't doing enough to prevent brands from appearing next to hate speech and other offensive material. Mm, interesting. YouTube is hyper aware because I guess whenever I talk, it has to be monitored. And yeah, there's a lot of hate speech on YouTube. Trust me, I run across it in my algorithm all the time. For some reason, YouTube continues to recommend right wing content to me, and I continue to have to hear these stupid talking points from people who are anti-black and hate on our people. But Ozzy says, "This is why I hate when people." All right, sorry. Last comment I'll read. This is why I hate when people compare right wing extremists to left wing or Antifa. One group is clearly more deranged and prone to violence. Absolutely true. And I think we've seen that in this video. At the beginning, I talked about the Jackie Robinson statue where they chopped off the feet of the statue and burnt it down like they wanted to lynch Jackie Robinson. And then at the end of this video, we covered nowadays, these crazy conservatives who are hell bent, obsessed with QAnon and all these crazy conspiracies. They want to take over the government and that sort of stuff. I kind of wish Cornel West didn't run for president. Number one, because he's too old. Number two, he might take away votes from Biden. Not that I love Biden, but Trump is a different animal. And if that boy gets in office again, it might be night night America, in my opinion. In my opinion. And the third thing I want to wrap up with and say this is that this new generation of black folks are not wanting to be in solidarity with anybody. We're not pan-Africanists. We're not, pan-globalists. We're not advocating for the Rohingya and the Palestinians and the Ukrainians. We're standing up for our people. That's what Cornel West does not get. In the interview with Black Alpha Network, he did not get that. He started talking about all sorts of stuff that did not make sense for his audience, which is the people who could rally around him. If we really got around Cornel West, he could actually make some noise. And he would be a great president, but not in this case. We actually need somebody who can stop Trump, stop that third wave of right wingism in America. And yeah, another thing, we as Black Americans should vote and be participatory in the process. Saying that we're going to sit out the vote or abandon the Democrats because they are not talking about reparations is a fool's errand. We're going to end up with nothing if we don't play the game. And we should not only be focused on reparations, we should be focused on universal health care, universal basic income, higher education for everybody. And that's really all I have to say about that. Happy Black History Month to everybody. Hug your mama if she with you. Hug your grandmama. Call your daddy. Do something. Shout out to everybody who came into the chat. Shout out to Avery Adams. Shout out to Ozzy. Shout out to the regular folks who are just silent and watching. I'm here going live for at least an hour every day in between classes. I got to get back to work, guys. Catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.